All right, so Luca, can you please begin, for anyone who doesn't know, by explaining your long relationship to Suspiria?
Well, I think hello?
Yep.
I think it's something that many fans of Darius' film share with me. I've seen it when I was very young, and it made an impression that lasted till now. And I couldn't really overcome that impression to the degree that I had to make a movie. To the degree that I had to make it into my own version of it.
And I had read that there was just a poster.
Oh yeah. There's a poster hanging on a cinema in Cesenatico, in the north of Italy, in the Adriatic coast. And it was the very famous poster that the gentleman over there has partly on his t-shirt while he's filming me on the left side out. Famous, beautiful poster, yeah.
I was considering something making that deep an impression on you, that it stayed with you this long and you were able to turn it into your job, essentially. And so I wanted to open up by way of going down the line and asking you all if there was something that you saw, if it was, for me it would have been a VHS cover of Prom Night 2, that you just couldn't get out of your head, or a poster, or something that really affected your memory.
Mine is The Birds. I feel like I ate that movie when I was young, and it's been in my cells ever since.
That's a tricky question. The first movie that comes to my mind is The Shining. That's one of my favorite films of all time. I saw it when I was far too young. And it just really left me really disturbed, but I loved it too.
It's hard to forget.
We don't have the technology here.
Oh, no. We can share this technology. I stole it from you. Was the question just our favorite films or favorite horror films?
It's something that just kind of jammed itself in your memory.
Oh yeah, Home Alone. And also The Princess Bride.
Yep.
And also so many other ones.
I'll follow that by saying Herbie once again.
But I remember very clearly the first film I ever saw, which for very long I thought was a dream. And I kept asking people if they'd seen this movie and they hadn't seen it. Finally I discovered what it was, and you can see it on YouTube right now. It's an extraordinary film called Powers of 10 by Charles and Ray Eames.
Oh, yeah.
And it's where it was made for the NASA project, and you go down onto a couple on a blanket having a picnic, and you go out and you see that they're in America, and you go out and you see they're in the world, and you go out into the universe 10 times, and then you come back down, you go onto the man's hand, and you go to his blood, and you go to the atoms, and it's the trickiest thing you will ever see. And I saw that when I was 8. And for about 30 years, I thought I was the only person who'd ever seen it. So yeah, that jammed, and it's worth jamming into an 8-year-old's brain.
Mine was a 5-year-old experience, which was The Wizard of Oz, which terrified me. It was my first horror movie, I feel. It terrified me and stayed to this day. The monkey game, we're familiar with that? Still haunts me. Anyway, that's my work memory.
Please hang on to the microphone because you are our link to the original film. And I want, right? And so I think that a lot of people in the audience might be able to relate to my response when I first heard this was being remade, and I went, oh, that's a tall order. And what was your response when you first got wind of it?
Oh, I thought it was a tall order, but that was, there were many rumors that floated around for years, as some of you may know, about a remake, with various names attached to the project. And in each case, I thought that's a tall order, and it can't possibly. And then I heard that Luca was attached, and I thought, yes! Now, that's a possibility. That's going to be incredibly interesting.
Luca and Dave, can you talk about how you integrated essentially so many new ideas into this version to really turn it into its own thing, especially referencing, so many things like Freud, for instance. It's not something that I got out of the original necessarily.
Well, I think our decision to keep it in 1977 was instrumental in affording us a whole different context for it, a much wider context for it. So it wasn't going to be all hermetically sealed inside of that dance company. And if you think about what was happening in Berlin in 1977, so many things were being unpacked. And that might even be too polite a word. So many things were being ripped out of the luggage of the national identity at the time in Germany. And so we thought it would be interesting to juxtapose a kind of examination of the politics inside of that coven with the counterpoint of the ambiguity of the political action going on around Berlin at the time. Anyone could point to something, and from one angle call it terrorism, from another angle call it political action. And so that was really useful to us, that ambiguity.
As Dave said, 1977 was really the setting stone here because of for me, the iconicity of the year, because of Dario Argento's Suspiria, and because we grew up loving the cinema that came out of Germany at the time, which was a very important wave that was really leading the way toward a new form for this language of cinema, at the same time a reflection on what was happening in the society then. So we thought about this strange child born from Dario Argento and Fassbinder.
That served as a fascinating backdrop, but on top of it, the dance itself was part of the horror for me. And I've never responded that way to seeing contemporary dance before. And one of the questions in the movie that I wanted to ask you, Dakota and Mia, it's lifted right from the movie. What does it feel like inside your body to dance the way that you were dancing in the film?
I've never danced before. I had no training. I always felt quite uncomfortable in my body and just quite awkward. And through learning this dance and going into training every day and being the choreographer and the wonderful dancers, it was incredibly empowering because the dance in and of itself is not sexy at all. There's something very it's very raw and primal, and I felt really good doing it.
I felt similarly. I danced when I was little, but I did ballet, which is, clearly meant to be so beautiful and look painless when it is so painful. And this style of dance is meant to convey pain and anger and sorrow and frustration and this sort of feeling of being deeply unsettled and distraught. And it felt like I had to kind of erase all of my prior knowledge of dance, of going against gravity to make things look beautiful and letting my body be sharp and sort of not aggressive in a way. And it felt, I think you have a wider sense of awareness when you spend so much time every day so aware of your body. And I learned a lot of that through the dancers we worked with as well, because they, the traveling lifestyle of a dancer is not very glamorous, and it's really hard, and the hours are so intense, and the work on your body is so intense. But these women, they've done it their whole lives because they just have to move their bodies. They have to. It's like breathing for them. And I found that to be so beautiful, and I found that to be very helpful in terms of how Susie dances.
It felt disorienting for me to watch because it is something so beautiful, it requires so much skill, but it was presented with such brutality. It's like the sound design, the editing, everything that created it, including, you know, with the movement. I was like, oh my God, these girls must be so banged up, right? Like it just seemed crazy.
We were pretty bruisey.
Okay, that, because if you weren't, I would be very genuinely surprised. And even the movement of your character, Tilda, there are a couple of quick shots and dream sequences where I see you dancing, and I felt like that movement really carried into your character, but just in case people out there aren't entirely sure how many characters you played in the film, could you please list them?
Well, what does it say on the poster? Playing Madame Blanc. Back to the dance. The thing you have to realise is that the dance that's designed for the film, which is designed by Kajganich, who's our extraordinary Belgian choreographer, he did this he's in his own right an amazing choreographer, modern choreographer, but he, as it were, designed dance choreographed in character because he was designing dance for 1977 that really came out of this resistance to, frankly, what the Nazis put in place. I mean, there was a quote that for a very long time was on a cut of the film, several cuts of the film, which was a quote from Goebbels, which said, I think, Luca, you can remind me, it said something like, dance can only be ever cheerful and beautiful and never intellectual. And for a long time, this was on front of film. And finally, as these things happened, didn't end up. But what the trace of that quote is in the moment when Madame Blanc says to Susie, the two things that dance can never be ever again are cheerful and beautiful. We have to break the nose of every beautiful thing. That's what that dance is that he's designed for us. And it's hardcore.
Truly.
It's really cross, it's really angry, and it's really sort of the inner, it's sort of you take beauty and elegance and the idea of some kind of external idea of what the feminine is, and you just turn it right inside out and go through it.
And therefore kind of expressing all the different sides of femininity at the same time. In seeing the film more than once, I really appreciated just the smallest flick of your hand as you were walking away from the girls. Can I ask you to break down how you prepare for a role? I know you're giving me that face, but I want to know nuts and bolts because the characters that you come up with are also vivid in different ways.
Well, sorry about the face. The real answer to how to prepare is to talk to Luca for 25 years about this film, and to have the luxury of that kind of lazy pre-production, as they call it in professional circles, where you just figure out what all your resonances and all your influences might be. I mean, one of my influences, I have to say, and I'm being quite out there about this because I want everybody, if they don't understand it, to go and see the film, is the great Lermontov, which is the great character played by Anton Walbrook in The Red Shoes by Paolo Pressburger. He's this extraordinary, charismatic dance choreographer who has an intimate sort of semi-darling relationship with a red-haired dancer. And you see that film, if you haven't seen it already, you'll understand why I'm saying this. He's sort of innate, the feeling of a choreographer who can't dance anymore, or doesn't dance. I mean, she sort of still dances, but you sense that she needs these dancers so badly. They're her avatars. The feeling of the tension in these kinds of gestures. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but these sorts of little, peccadillos, these sorts of little noodles over 25 years, that's where that all comes from.
I know you guys have a lot of questions out there. Okay, I see one right in the front.
Hi, this is my third time watching this film, and so I didn't know that the doctor was also played by Tilda until after the second time I watched it. So I'm just wondering what are the everything about that decision, and including during which stage during the writing or casting that decision was made.
Well, it's Luca Guadagnino, who plays for Professor Clever. I think everything was very, I would say, liquid, it flew. Bottom line, it was a great opportunity of playground as fun, let's say.
Thank you.
Right there.
Hello, thank you very much for being here tonight. My name is Graham Evans, I'm the USC officer. I have a question for Mr. Guadagnino on the acting of the film. It sort of deals with all these dark themes, but there's kind of more of a brighter, more conspicuous color palette. So when you were approaching directing the film, how did you kind of strike the balance between conveying the storytelling, but also having a style to pull the audience into the story?
Well, every movie is, even the more realistic movie for me is, of course, a dream, some sort of fairy tale. Even a Ken Loach movie is for me. In this case, I think the guidelines came from the world we were building, this world of 1977, Germany. The reference we had, particularly the cinema of Fassbinder and the picture, the paintings of Balthus. So I think that plot, juxtaposed to a very precise search for the details of the everyday practicalities of the life of these characters, possibly led to what you call this stylized image of the movie.
I was wondering, a lot of films I find these days, if there's multiple languages in them, or they're set in foreign countries, they sort of resort to thinking in English and kind of just assume that the audience knows to see conducted in another language. What do you feel it adds by keeping things in multiple languages, in just having the German and the French flow through the movie and just having that be as it is, rather than switching to English?
Well, because there are many of these people are German in the movie, and they're it's as it
Hi, Luca. I love the movie. All you did so amazing. Can you tell us anything about your next projects? And
There's a big volume in my next project.
what?
A long volume in my next project.
Can
I
you tell us anything
tomorrow.
about
I
your
hope-
name, sequel?
Oh, no, that's something that is not on the horizon today.
I have a question about the music. What was your and the music supervisor's approach to the music, just in general for the movie? And how did Tom York get involved in the project?
Well, the soundtrack had to be very focused, very precise in this case, because of the great legacy of the Goblin soundtrack from various films, and which is amazing, of course. And but it couldn't be imitating it, couldn't be quoting it in a, let's say, direct way. And I started to think of what was the musical voice of my generation, and I immediately thought about Tom York. And that's how the idea came about. And then we approached him, thanks to also my music supervisor, Robin Irvin. And after a few attempts, we finally got together with Tom and we spoke about it. We spoke about the fact that we want the music to be a character in itself. We didn't want the soundtrack to create an atmosphere of spookiness for the sake of it. We preferred the idea that the soundtrack was somehow coming off of both the world of Madame Blanc company and from the world of the movie at large. And also we wanted the music to always rely on to the music and the instruments up until 1977.
Back there? Yeah.
One
One of you.
Together.
He is a
I just wanted to say, first of all, the movie was very intense. But also, I had a question. I'm not a film student or anything. I just love movies. But my question was the scene when Mother is reincarnated was so intense and disorienting. And I was wondering, how long did it take you guys to shoot that and get it exactly how you wanted it?
You mean the Black Sabbath, the ritual? Yes. I think it was 5 days, and it was fun.
All right, you can do one more.
Can you talk about the decision to change Susie's character from a proverbial innocent in the original to basically a new witch mother?
Well, because of what you just said, the proverbial innocent was not very interesting. And I think David had more.
I beg your pardon.
No, you were fantastic in the concept of proverbial innocent.
Okay.
What was a proverbial innocent? You weren't.
No, she was fierce.
I wasn't as innocent as I appeared.
You're smiling at the end of the original.
Yeah, that wasn't innocent.
Exactly.
We talked about wanting to try to flip an audience's expectations in the sense that there's a mystery about the original as to what really is going on. We knew we were going to dismantle that pretty quickly, and so it felt like if this was going to be a film that in some way was about Susie's empowerment, finding her true identity, it seemed like it was the most interesting choice to drive her towards something that was so ambiguous as opposed to having another horror film where the final girl is just the object of the horror for 90 minutes, or in this case, a lot more. We wanted Susie to be the subject of the horror at some points in the film, so we could kind of have our cake and eat it too.
Can you steal that microphone?
Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for tonight, so please give them a hand for all the